Chief Richard sat inside his luxurious black SUV, the tinted glass shielding him from the world outside. To the people of Lagos, he was a name spoken with awe and fear, the billionaire whose empire stretched across oil, real estate, and politics. But inside that armored car, surrounded by silence and leather, he was just a man numbed by power and wealth. His eyes rarely looked beyond those tinted windows. To him, the world outside was noise. Desperate vendors, shouting children, honking cars, and the endless grind of survival that had nothing to do with him. On that hot afternoon, the SUV came to a stop at a traffic light. Chief Richard tapped his finger impatiently on the armrest, distracted by a call from his board of directors. Outside, the sun blazed down on the streets, and dust swirled around the vehicles halted in long queues. Street children darted between cars, selling bottles of water, peanuts, and cheap phone chargers. But Richard didn't look. He never did. That was when a small knock echoed faintly against the tinted glass. It was so soft that the driver almost ignored it. But then it came again, more insistent, and this time Chief Richard raised his eyes. He could barely make out a shadowy figure through the glass. "Ignore it," he muttered to his driver. "Just another beggar." But curiosity made him press the button. The tinted window slid down halfway, and the blinding sunlight hit his face. Standing there, barely tall enough to reach the glass, was a little black girl, no older than 8. Her hair was braided in uneven rows, and her dress was faded and patched at the corners. She wasn't holding out her hand for coins like others often did. Instead, she held a small, dirty rag in one hand and a plastic bottle of water in the other. "Mister, can I clean your window?" she asked in a tiny but determined voice. Richard frowned. "You want money?" The girl shook her head quickly. "No, sir. I don't want charity. I just want to work. I can make your window shine. Please, just give me a chance." For a moment, Richard was silent. No one had spoken to him like that in years. Children usually begged. Adults groveled. People bowed when they saw him. But here was this little girl, her eyes wide with desperation, yet filled with dignity. She wasn't asking for pity. She was asking for respect. "What's your name?" Richard asked, surprising even himself. "Sophie," she said, gripping her rag tightly. "My mama is sick. The hospital said we need medicine. I tried selling water, but no one buys. If you let me work, maybe I can earn enough." The driver shifted uncomfortably, ready to wave her away, but Richard lifted a hand. "Clean it," he said simply. Sophie's face lit up as if he had given her the world. She dipped the rag into her little bottle of water and began scrubbing carefully. Her hands were small, but she worked with such focus that even Richard leaned forward to watch. Each swipe was full of effort, each motion heavy with determination. By the time she was done, the glass sparkled under the sun. "There," she said, breathing hard but smiling proudly. "Now you can see the world clearer, sir." Richard's chest tightened. Her words hit him like a bullet. For years he had hidden behind tinted glass, refusing to see the world beyond his riches. And here was a child reminding him that maybe he wasn't really living at all. "How much?" he asked softly. Sophie shook her head again. "I don't want money I didn't earn. If you think I did good, you can give me what it's worth." Richard stared at her in disbelief. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Slowly, he reached into his pocket and handed her a crisp note. More money than she had ever seen in her life. But to his surprise, she hesitated before taking it. "Are you sure?" she asked. "It's too much." For the first time in years, Richard laughed. A deep, genuine laugh that startled his driver. "Yes, Sophie. You've earned it." The traffic light turned green, and cars honked angrily behind them. But Richard didn't tell the driver to move. Instead, he pushed the door open and stepped out, ignoring the shocked stares of bystanders. He knelt down right there in the dust, looking Sophie in the eye. "Where is your mother?" he asked gently. "In a small room," Sophie whispered, tears filling her eyes. "She's very sick. I don't know what to do anymore." Richard placed a hand on her tiny shoulder. "Don't worry, Sophie. From today, you won't be alone." And true to his word, he didn't just give her money. He followed her back to the tiny one-room shack where her mother lay weak and pale. He called his personal doctor, arranged for immediate treatment, and by the end of that night, Sophie's mother was in a private hospital receiving the care she desperately needed. But Richard didn't stop there. He enrolled Sophie in school, promising her a future brighter than she could ever imagine. He even told his board of directors about her, declaring that his company would begin a new foundation for children like Sophie, those who had dignity, strength, and courage in the face of hardship. Months later, Sophie stood on a stage beside him as he announced scholarships for hundreds of poor children. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, but all Richard cared about was the smile on her face. And every time Sophie looked down at him, she remembered the day he had knelt in the dust, not as a billionaire, but as a man who finally saw the world clearly. Because sometimes, it takes the smallest hands to wipe away the dust from the windows of the richest hearts.